We're doing an event tomorrow at the university. In which building is it?
The Child Development Center at Fort Valley State University.
Thank you. Yeah, we're gonna do a little presentation on extreme weather events and get feedback from y'all, all right, about the situation here in Fort Valley. We're trying to work a little more in rural communities in the South.
In 2021 and 22, the Southeast Climate and Energy Network, along with Environmental Finance Center West, Urban Climate Nexus, Hometown Action, and Exposure Labs, were accepted into the NOAA Climate Adaptation Partnerships Program to host gatherings in communities in the U.S. South with the hope of gaining an understanding of how they're experiencing climate change and what their needs are around it.
There's a distinction between what the data says and what the reality is. And so you can only know the reality if you ground truth yourself, and that can only be done working with the community.
Something that we need to learn is how climate change is affecting the communities, how climate change is affecting the livelihood of those people.
I think it's important for community members to be able to tell their own stories about what's happening in their own backyard, and us as researchers and community activists can work in collaboration with these communities because they need to be on the forefront of the solutions that we are determining for these areas.
Small rural communities are always overlooked, or they're planned for at like the national level or even the state level, but you never get the real community input. And they know what's happening, they know what's wrong, and they frequently have the answers in part on how to fix it.
We can look at data from afar, we can look at maps and information that we glean, even through online research, but until we really get on the ground in the community and hear from the people who actually live and work here, we don't get the full story.
It's just important that the participants in the workshop, who are community members, have every chance to co-develop that and co-create all of it with us.
In the fight for climate justice, community is everything. Leaning on each other to share knowledge and experience is an invaluable part of being human, yet that shared knowledge and wisdom have long been written off in the wider search for solutions. Community and collaboration are ingrained in Southern culture, which is just one of the reasons we chose to focus on the Southeastern US.
The South is misunderstood. It's very under-resourced. The Southeastern US is 86 million people, one of the most diverse regions in the world. Also in terms of biodiversity, in terms of economic importance. If it was not a part of this country, it would be the 5th largest economy in the world.
Protecting our biodiversity here is so important in upholding those fragile cycles that we all need to continue living comfortably. If we don't protect them, comfortable will not really be an option.
Climate change in the South, to me, is sadly watching people get trapped in cycles of recovery from disasters because we are disproportionately affected by them here.
Climate change in the South represents a disturbance in our entire way of culture. Even in the state of Alabama, we're always worried about the next tornado. We're in tornado season right now, and at any moment you may be called to go downstairs and hide in your basement because the storms have gotten worse and worse and worse.
Here in the Bible Belt, we're used to putting things in biblical terms. So you'll hear a lot of folks here in the South that think that either climate change isn't happening or why worry about it, God's in control. That just means they need to go back and read their Bible, because the Bible tells me that as we sow, so shall we reap. We are sowing gigatons, that is billions of tons of a known heat-trapping gas every year. And we can't expect God to absolve us of that blame.
We conducted workshops in 3 rural towns in Georgia, Alabama, and Florida, asking community members to come and share their stories and knowledge of climate change in their own backyard. Our goal was to achieve an understanding of how each community was feeling and experiencing the impacts of climate change, what assets already existed in their community, as well as potential solutions so that we could take that back to NOAA at a government level and impact future planning around the solutions being crafted and decisions being made.
I've seen that we get a lot more hot days, and we have earlier summers or earlier 90-degree days. I noticed that our plants here, like our peaches, they'll start to bloom in March or April instead of May or June.
So why do you think this is happening?
Climate change and human interaction with climate change.
You've seen these changes over the last 10, 15 years, I guess, since you've been here. How's it affecting the community, and who in particular do you think it's affecting the most?
It affects mostly brown and black people.
Climate change in the South is I think it's this mystical force that is impacting and influencing how we live life without our acknowledgement of it. And in real life, climate change is an inequity exacerbator.
The number one thing that surprised me was that there are actual people like me who are actually here doing the work. Because many times we really feel alone. Having organizations like yourselves to come to our community to show that you actually care about what it is that we're doing and the planet really gives me hope.
We oftentimes try to chase and save the cosmos, and we forget all about community. Today we heard people in community and how they suffer. And it's high time that we start looking at and focusing on how our communities suffer. As I say always, you help the people, you'll heal the planet.
The NOAA program's approach of resourcing organizers and scientists to go out into communities and obtain feedback that is then shared with decision makers who, at times, hold our future in their hands, is a way to shift power back to the people. We feel honored to have played a role in this work and hope it can be grown and replicated in future planning.
It is a huge job to try to save the world and make it so our children's children have a world to go to.
Yeah.
But it is doable if we do it as a collective.
When we looked around the room today, we saw a group of young people, and for me, that gives me hope.
While we are late in getting started, and we are barely getting started, as late as the hour is, it is not too late.
The culture's here already for collaboration. Like I said, we're resourceful and we also know how to have a good time while doing it. So, we know how to have fun out of really serious situations.
You talk the next one, okay?
I don't know what to say.
Well, the same stuff that I said. Have you noticed any weather, environmental, or economic changes in your community lately? Say that. Well, tomorrow we're going to have a discussion about that, okay? And how these impacts happen in your community. We need feedback from y'all. All right? You go next, okay? Because you're good. You're a very good talker.